Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Red Devil Experience. My name is Eric. Hope everybody is doing well. We got the latest Manchester United news. We got a slew of news today. We're going to be talking a little bit more about the youth. This is a topical discussion that I've chosen to talk about today, but we also got some news updates that we got to get to. Pretty much a midfield update. I mean, there is updates about Angelo Stiller, Elliot Anderson, Casemiro, Kobe Mainu, etc., etc. So we're going to get to the transfer news as well. But yeah, we're going to kick off the show with a little bit of a youth talk. And smash the like button. Make sure you get that done, people. It is greatly important to the channel. So hit that like button. Get us pushed out there. Help us out. We greatly appreciate it. If you enjoyed the content, make sure you subscribe. And if you do subscribe, hit the notification bell icon so you get notified when we go live. You're part of the show. You don't miss any of the discussion or updates or information or any of that. We also got the Discord. Get in the Discord. The Discord is a great place. We got a great Discord. It is a professional Discord. Really, really good place. And it's all the place where you get to, you know, interact with people after or when we're not online and we're not chatting here. You can chat, you can make friends in there, and it's a good place to be. So it's in the pinned post up here, pinned comment. So make sure you get in there as well. But welcome to the show. I'm going to kick things off. Lyle's here as well. Says, hey, Eric and all you Reds. How you doing, buddy? I'm going to kick off the show here with a little bit of youth talk. So we got these updates surrounding Harry Amass, Gabriel Banchieri, and Victor Musa. And it goes like this. So the updates have come about Harry Amass. Apparently he's doing very well at Sheffield United. Manchester United are very happy with his progress at Sheffield United. And they're happy with the loan. And Sheffield Wednesday is very happy with Harry Amass and his loan. And this is the update as it goes. Manchester United have been thrilled with Wednesday's treatment of Amass, and likewise, the championship side have been very happy with the wingback. Further loans were being considered, and now names are emerging. Gabriel Banchieri is one young talent who is on Wednesday's target list, with the Welsh under-21 international in need of senior football, having surpassed the challenges of Premier League 2. Another is his under-21 teammate Victor Musa, who United in focus here is set for a loan in January with Wednesday as a possibility. And just to go a little bit further into that, while Harry Amass is doing excellent there and the club is very happy with his progress, there is no plans for Harry Amass to be recalled in January. Harry Amass will not rejoin Manchester United in January, but will remain at Sheffield Wednesday for the remainder of the campaign. Now, my 2 cents on this, or thoughts and opinions, is one, I'm very happy that Harry Amass is doing well. I think, again, I've kind of coined him my son. It's a little bit of a joke. I don't do Player FC, but I do believe in this kid, and I think he is a talent, and I think he can be one that actually can succeed at Manchester United and be sort of another homegrown youth prospect that enters into our first team at some point. He looked good in some of the performances last season, and then he looked a little bit like he needed to grow a little bit, which is fine because of his age and where he's at. Some people were clearly unhappy that he was sent on loan because they felt like he should have been part of the first team. And I am one that always holds the opinion that if we don't really have room for them, and some people will argue, well, we should be playing them. But again, I don't believe that United is at the place where we should be putting these kids in. I don't think we're there yet. I think we need to sort out the first team, and I think we need to create a nice, strong environment for these youth players, and a positive environment, albeit, for these youth players and these young players to come into so they can actually grow and improve. And if they don't have a real chance of getting games at Manchester United at the moment, where we find ourselves, then they should all be sent out on loan. I've been encouraged, the way Ahmad's loan went, and the way it went for him and the way he improved and he had such a great season, and then he came into our squad and became a very important player, and now he is the player who he is. And I would like more of those, and we should be looking to do more of those, and I think that is the correct path for Manchester United to take for these youth players, especially considering where, our first team is in terms of we are still inconsistent. We are still trying to find our feet. We are still trying to be still trying to be stable. And Harry Amass, or the club in this terms, have found sort of, I think, another one. I mean, he is doing good. I've looked into it. He is performing well. I think in the beginning, he sort of struggled a little bit to adjust, but he's come into the team quite well and he's doing quite well and they love him. I think this is the pathway forward. And I think this is part of, sort of Amorim coming in, plus coupled with Ineos, and, Jason Wilcox and everybody taking over the football club and sort of setting the youth plan into a certain direction and having a concrete plan. And I think they do have a concrete plan. I think it's one that requires quite amount of patience, which I'm willing to give. And also, I think it's one that is going to take some time, but I think it is the correct one. I think it is the path that we should be going down, especially, with the likes of some of these other players like Victor Musa or Gabriel Bankeri. I am aware of Gabriel Bankeri and Victor Musa, and I'm encouraged that, we are looking to loan out more of them in January, because in this current moment in time, whether you agree with it or not, this is the facts. We have players such as Kobbie Mainoo, Joshua Zirkzee, and others who are further along in their path and growth and talent, and they are struggling to get minutes into the team. We do not have the opportunities for these young kids this season. We just don't have it. So what Manchester United should be doing to help these players grow, especially if they have hit sort of the goals and they're sort of hitting the peaks in the under 21s, is go loan them to championship sides where they can play regular football, competitive football, at a higher level, and, perform. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to be good enough for Manchester United, then you should be good enough to get yourself into a team that's in the championship and be playing regularly. That is just the cold facts. I mean, if people argue that, we should be playing or we should be giving bigger or more opportunities to Harry Amass, well, then Harry Amass going to Sheffield Wednesday should be able to go into a Sheffield Wednesday team, perform well, and be a pivotal part of the team. That is the big indication. I think that is a test. I think it is the proper test. I think it is the proper, sort of ladder that needs to be climbed here. I don't think we are in a position, and I don't think we are at the place yet where Manchester United should be throwing necessarily these youngsters in on a consistent basis. Again, I think it is the correct thing that United have moved away from sort of what we did with Kobbie Mainoo and Alejandro Garnacho in terms of giving them too much too early. Lyle says the logo looks good. Thank you. I got to clean it up a little bit. There's a bit of an issue with the resizing thing, but I will get that. But thank you. Appreciate that. But for the youth, I think it's important that we are doing what we are doing, and I do have some points to hit on in terms of the youth and where they do stand and how that outlook is sort of looking, because many people get their knickers in a twist over the youth, and they feel like that, we are not growing the youth. And I think that is a total misrepresentation of what our club is doing. I don't think that's actually a fact. I think it's actually false. If anybody holds that opinion, I don't think that they're looking at it in the correct way. I think they're being quite rash about the youth. I don't know why. I understand that this football club has always had that, throughout their history. I know that we've done many great things with the implementation of youth, but Manchester United have fallen away from what we once were. And I believe it is in my sole opinion and my sole belief that Manchester United need to get back to a higher standard and a higher place to be able to, bring the youth back in an acceptable level. So since Amorim has come in and since Ineos have taken over, they have set up a clearer path for the youth. These certain things were not happening. They have made in training smaller senior groups with more academy involvement. Ruben Amorim has reiterated that in May 2025 that these things are that these things would be happening going into next season. Throughout 2025, so basically after last season, going into this season, preseason, and all of that, they have regularly pulled teenagers and youth players into senior sessions, with multiple reports of first-time call-ups and planned debuts, if senior internationals are possibly away. We haven't gotten that yet, but maybe AFCON might provide some of those opportunities, because I think if we're going to lose a couple players, we are going to have to bring in some players that are clearly not making the bench, squad players. Now, Jack Fletcher was part of that, and that might be a slight indication, that is going to happen, because Kobe Mainu, wasn't available for the last match. So during AFCON, we're going to lose 3 players. That means there's going to be 3 open spots. Doesn't mean that they're going to necessarily play a lot, or maybe they don't play at all, but they will be called up to the squad. They will be part of the match day sort of experience. And actually, there is still a potential opportunity for them to be involved. It depends on, I guess sort of the situation that Manchester United are in considering the table, how we are performing, and what's going on inside of the matches. As well, where we are. If we're home, if we're up 3-0, maybe you can give them some time. There might be an opportunity for that to happen. Even for the club's own season reviewed flag, 4 academy players stepping up to debut across 2024-2025, despite a turbulent campaign, and those were the likes of like Harry Amass, etc., and Tyler Fredrickson. Integration didn't stop at training. When we went into the preseason, which I kind of mentioned already, Amorim's summer tour squad deliberately carried several academy players, with the manager stating the club would focus on nurturing what it has, both for football reasons and PSR. And again, people feel like, I feel like a lot of United fans out there might feel like, or some United fans out there feel like that generally this isn't enough. But I think they are terribly mistaken, because I don't know what it is. I think it has something to do with the team, with the team, with the players of '99, and the youth talent and the golden generation of that area, with like the Neville, Giggs, Becks, and etc. etc. But I feel like people forget. And I was a kid at this time, but if you go back, and I didn't live through it, but if you go back and you search about it, I mean, I lived through it, but I wasn't old enough to really comprehend what was going on. But if you go back and search through it, there is not one single place you will find that says that any of those players that became legends, that were pivotal to our success, there is not one single person or indication that they were thrown in and they were immediately given starting spots. They had ups and downs. They didn't always feature a whole lot. They were given opportunities and they had to grow into it, and eventually they became part of the plan and the process. But it wasn't immediate. It wasn't quick. I feel like it is not like the way people talk about it now, that they want these kids to be thrown into the first team because they think that they're going to be some sort of savior for Manchester United. And I don't know why it's a bit of a rewriting of history, in my opinion, because that's not how it went down at all. And also, the squad, I believe, under Sir Alex Ferguson at that time, was already stronger and was already really starting to take shape. It didn't happen immediately as soon as Sir Alex Ferguson walked into Manchester United. That was a few years after he's already been there, after the foundation was laid, after the squad started to show real signs of improvement, and there was some there. So for that to happen, we're not there yet. Clearly, I think we're still very far away from it. I think there has been slight improvements in the squad to show an indication of positivity that we could possibly get there. But so United are continuing to push 18 to 21s into the senior loan environments, which is what they need to be doing. And we need to continue to be doing that. Through most of the first season, no, sorry about that. So, right here, right now, Toby Collier, he debuted 24-25, 13 appearances, 3 starts, big cameo at Fulham, and at Europa start versus Rangers, noted by the club, likely sticks as an energetic rotation 6-8 behind Ugarte and Casemiro, but he is on loan right now. I don't think he's particularly doing that well compared to Harry Amass. He is 21, so he is one of the older ones. And I think for him, not all of these guys are going to succeed. I have a long list in front of me. Toby Collier, Cheetah Obi, Harry Amass, Tyler Fredrickson, Jack Fletcher, Saku Kone, Aiden Heaven, Ethan Williams, Bendito Montato, Reese Monroe, Dermot Mee, Will Murdoch. There's a huge list. It is Collier is injured. I didn't know that. Thank you for that update. So that's I mean, kind of shit. Let's just say what it is. I feel bad. You go on loan, you try to get game time, you try to improve, you try to grow. You're 21 years old. You get injured. Do you know his injury, Lyle? And do you know how long he's going to be out? Is it a serious one? Is he going to miss a lot of action? Because that actually does quite suck. But Cheetah Obi, striker, 17 years old, debuted last season as well. 7 appearances, 1 start. Traveled and featured throughout the summer, included on the 2025 US tour. Profiles as a bench number 9 and late game threat. But he's one that's probably going to have to go on loan again. I don't think that he's necessarily close at this moment in time. Now, a year can change things. 6 months can change things. A decent loan for 6 months or something like that can change your outlook for the following season. Harry Amass, obviously, we just talked about. He's on loan. He's 18 years old. His loan is going very well. I think for Harry Amass, if it continues the way it's going, I think next season, also depending on how Manchester United's season goes, if we can get a European place and we have more matches and we need a bigger squad, there will be more opportunities. We will be in 4 competitions. With 4 competitions, we should have enough room for the likes of somebody like a Harry Amass, who does very well on loan and grows and improves, and then we can move forward. There is Diego Leon. He is improving, and they like his sort of development behind the scenes. He hasn't really gotten an opportunity yet. I think it's a bit fairly limited at this moment in time, and maybe actually what we actually do is we swap them and we bring Harry Amass back in after Leon, because Leon, coming from such a different place in the world and different football, and he's a young guy, he's got to adjust to a lot of things. And I think what they're doing with him is just getting him adjusted to life in England, the English football, and probably prepping him for maybe a loan. And what I think you can do is bring Harry Amass back, because Harry Amass, he's English. He's grown up in England, English football. He's very familiar with it, and he's having a good loan. So you bring him back and you send out Diego Leon on loan so that he can get more of a taste of English football and grow and have a better opportunity, instead of him maybe possibly coming straight into Manchester United, because I don't think he's ready for the Premier League necessarily. But I think he has the potential to grow. Tyler Fredrickson was one that I liked, but he is 20, and he's sort of a little bit like Collier. I mean, he is at sort of the point that I think, you are coming to the age where, you're going to make it or you're not going to make it. Some players are a little bit of late bloomers. We've seen that in the past. We've seen that in the past. That doesn't mean that they aren't good. It's just some players are a little bit, of just a late bloomer in terms of they really break out maybe when they're 20 or 21, around that age instead of maybe 17 or 18. Doesn't mean that their ceiling is limited, because you have still a far way away from actually supposedly hitting your prime as a player. So there's still a long pathway away from that. Jack Fletcher was one that we talked about as well. 18 years old, center mid. Hasn't gotten the actual playing debut. He was featured on the bench last match, and it's probably one to watch in terms of when we get to January. We're going to see, I think, maybe one or two of these players, and we'll probably get a better indication of who they are sort of leaning towards in terms of who they think is progressing the best and who is probably the closest. I think it's going to be quite interesting. And it's also going to have to do probably with, like, a positional sense in terms of, like, what we're going to need for positioning, to sort of cover gaps just in case in the squad, because we're going to need them in the squad to kind of cover the gaps. And, if a player gets injured on the pitch, or I don't know, maybe we need something to change the game, we're going to need certain players in certain positions that we're going to be kind of lacking under. I mean, we're going to be losing Noose, so that's sort of a right wing back. We're going to be losing Diallo, who's basically is a wing back and a 10. And we're going to be losing Mbuemo, who is a 10. So we're going to need some help out there somehow in some way. Now, the first team might have to shift a little bit, and players might have to move a little bit of positions, which might open up some doors for a couple of these youngsters. The rest of them, if they don't have the opportunity, we should be sending them on loan, so that they can get opportunities like Harry Amass and grow. Aiden Heaven. But I think Aiden Heaven is one that, he is always constantly on the bench, and he is probably, one that is closest to getting an opportunity in terms of, he's right there. He's not in the same camp as sort of a Saku Kone or a Jack Fletcher or a Cheeto, or even an Amass or even a Fredrickson at this moment in time. Heaven is, he's basically there. He's knocking on the door. He's not like the same as Bendito Montato, or these others. So, Lyle says, sorry, Collier returned for West Brom this weekend from the bench. He was reported as injured last week. Some time must have just been a knock. Well, that's good. That's good. As long as he's not seriously injured, that's good to talk about. But you know what? We can circle back to sort of the youth talk, because there's actually a lot of news that we kind of need to jump into. And the one that we're going to hit on is the midfield sort of update, because there has been a large update surrounding the midfield. Angelo Stiller has come back into the frame along with Elliot Anderson yesterday. Update and news carrying over into today. There's been a slight small update going into the Casemiro update from yesterday, as well as Kobe Mainu, small update, but sort of the same. And then there's one piece of update. We're gonna leave that for the end because it's a bit random. But let's hit this and let's get into this. By the way, before I do, just real quick, anybody that's watching, I noticed that there is some sort of a hype. There's some sort of a hype button on YouTube. I don't know what that necessarily does. I don't know if that matters a lot, but maybe we should play around with that and hit that. I don't know where it's gone, but I did see it once upon a time. There was like some sort of new hype button or something like that. So I don't know if that's important to the channel, but if it does work, do that as well. I appreciate that. But here's the updates. Manchester United rate Angelo Stiller very highly in their plans. The player is greatly admired by both Christopher Favell and Jason Wilcox. So I think right now, based off of that update, it seems like Angelo Stiller might actually necessarily top the list. And I think a close second, or maybe you can argue a tie, would be Elliot Anderson. I think it seems like Carlos Baleba has actually dropped. I think Carlos Baleba once upon a time was the number one target, clear and ahead, and there wasn't so many names. I think now, I think Carlos Baleba has serious competition, and I think actually he's fallen down the pecking order. And I actually really like Angelo Stiller. He's a top quality deep lying playmaker. And United clearly value him because he keeps being mentioned and he's been propelled sort of to the top. And I highly do trust Christopher Vivell. We've talked highly about Christopher Vivell on this channel and on this show. We talk a lot about Christopher Vivell, and I think Wilcox is actually very good at his job too. And I like Wilcox way better than what was his name? Who the guy that we had from Newcastle and then we sacked him. I forgot his name. I think Wilcox's plan and idea is far better, far smarter, and just more of a United way for Manchester United than whatever his name was. Dan Ashworth. Thank you, Lyle. I always count on you. Yes, Dan Ashworth. That's how insignificant he was to me at Manchester United. I forgot his name. So I think Wilcox I think Wilcox is good for the club, and I highly, highly rate Christopher Vivell. I think he is absolutely brilliant. I wish we can get sort of more Christopher Vivells. Not in that like there's sort of the same department, but I just want people that have a very good track record like Christopher Vivell all over in different areas of the pitch. Performance analysis, scouting, data analysis, all of that stuff. I would like experts on the level with a good track record like Christopher Vivell has. I think that it's very important to the to Manchester United. So we're gonna kind of do like a whole midfield discussion because there's a lot of bits and piece update news about this. The other piece that has come out into this is again sort of a reiteration of yesterday. This is from Ben Jacobs, and Ben Jacobs just released like a whole update around Manchester United. By the way, we have a poll. Get in the poll and vote in the poll. Has United's youth approach improved? And then we'll have a discussion about it later on the back end of the show. But Elliot Anderson's price tag will be significantly lower than the 100 million to 120 million pounds being reported this summer. His contract includes provisions allowing a cheaper transfer, though they're complex and subject to variables. Now, where have we sort of heard this before? Because I remember specifically that when they were talking about Cunha, was it Cunha? I believe it was Cunha. Sort of at the end of the season, before the window actually sort of opened and before we actually signed him, I remember getting a couple updates that Cunha had a buyout clause, but apparently the buyout clause wasn't straightforward and it was more complex, even though they wouldn't tell us what that actually meant and how it was complex. So I never understood how they knew that information, but then wouldn't be able to actually tell us the information. And as far as I feel like it went and how it happened, I actually feel like it was quite straightforward and that it wasn't actually complex. So I kind of feel like there's a little bit of sort of the same thing happening here. There are provisions that are allowing a cheaper transfer. They want to be super vague and they say they're complex and subject to variables. Can we please know why it's complex and what the subject to variables are? You can't give us this update and not know the details of it. I don't buy that for a second. So maybe they liked, you know what? Maybe this is on me. We'll see if we get the answer to this, because they do like to drip the news out for, top engagement. They like to give you one piece, then they give you the second piece. They don't put it all in one post. So we will see, because that's what I had going into the show. So actually, let me just pull this up, because this is the whole Ben Jacobs update. He's just done a live on Talk Sport. He's done a whole update. So I think as far as I can see, it's kicked off in a way that yes. So I will go further into this. Let me just get to the top of it so I don't miss anything and we hit everything. So that update that I just read you, it goes further into explaining, and this is why it's important to get the right sort of, if you don't go directly to Ben Jacobs, it's important to get the right United aggregators, because some of them like to leave shit out, and I don't understand, because literally, why are you leaving out important information? But I found somebody that actually does their proper job. Shout out United Joshua on X, United Joshua 03, if you want to go follow him and check him out. I think he actually does a very good job. And he is actually giving us the rest of the information that says after, Elliot Anderson will be a whole lot cheaper than 100 to 120 million pounds. It says, in January, Forest hold all the cards. Elliot Anderson has been told by Tuchel, if you continue playing for Forest, you're going to be on the plane to the World Cup, which is what we talked about yesterday. And then he goes on to say, Ben Jacobs, I'm not so sure Elliot Anderson would want to gamble on a club mid-season, knowing he's on track for the World Cup squad. I think that's going to probably have an impact as well. We talked about this. We talked about how January is quite difficult. We talked about how actually the impact of having a World Cup is actually making it a lot more pain in the ass and a lot less straightforward than it actually really needs, than it actually possibly could be. It's different. Last season is different. It's not the same. This season is totally different. Whether you like it or not, which I don't like it, but I am in that camp of I don't like it, I don't enjoy it, but the World Cup does tend to have an impact on players and squads and transfer windows. I find it quite annoying because when the World Cup comes, I will watch the World Cup and I will be interested in the World Cup. But until the World Cup comes, I don't really give a shit. I want Manchester United to have the best possible season and best possible outcome, and this sort of puts a bump in it. It makes it more of a pain in the ass than it has to, because we already are in sort of a pain in the ass situation. We need to watch out for finances. We need to sell the project to these players. We are not the only ones in for them. They are quality players. There are other teams sniffing around. We don't have unlimited funds. We need to be sort of smart with our money and the way we spend our money. And then you get a thing like this where it's like, even if Elliot Anderson likes the idea of Manchester United, he is, particularly if you look at his situation, he is consistently playing football at Forest. Tuchel is telling him, basically, if you stay at Forest, because there's just no way he's not going to end up playing for Forest. He is literally, if not their best player, one of their best players. So basically, Tuchel is telling him, if you stay at Forest and continue with the game time you have, you will be in the England World Cup squad. He's not going to give that up to play for Manchester United. It's the same as how Kobbie Mainoo doesn't want to leave Manchester United permanently, as far as we know, but he just wants a loan out because he wants more game time that he clearly is struggling to get at Manchester United because he wants to go to the World Cup. These players have ambitions. I get that. I don't think that's why. I think that's why I think some fans need to relax around Kobbie Mainoo in terms of they speak in a manner like he wants to run away from the club, or that like he's turned his back on the club. I don't think that is necessarily the case. Now, I've given my opinions on it, and it kind of it doesn't contradict what I'm saying. It sounds contradicting, but it's because I want what I believe. But when it comes to the players, they have their own aspirations, and a lot of them are like this. They're not professionals. They're professionals for a reason. They want to be in the highest level of competition. They want to represent their country. So now I think it's a bit of a you throw another sort of bump into the road in January, where it's like Elliot Anderson might be 100% interested in coming to Manchester United. Can we guarantee him a starting spot? I don't know, and I don't think they can. And can you guarantee that he is going to be playing the same amount of minutes and the same amount of time that he's playing at Forest if he comes to Manchester United in the middle of January? And just to be real, and at the moment that we're at, I don't think you can. I think many fans will argue you can, because he's that good, he should become a starting player. But I don't know if we actually can, because I just don't know how the plan goes into that. I don't know, listen, we all know the issue with Bruno Fernandes. We know he's the captain. We know this guy is essentially almost basically undroppable to a certain extent. It's almost like pulling teeth to try and even get him substituted off. And that is my one big sort of criticism with Ruben Amorim, because I support the manager and I back him and I want to continue to give him time because I think it's just the right thing to do. I think there is a possibility that he can succeed and it's a longer plan and we need to be more patient. But I find it increasingly hard to see that he's just going to walk straight into the first team. I mean, Ruben has come to really like Casemiro as well, and I think he rates Casemiro very highly, and I think he rates the experience. I don't think you're going to be able to offer. Can you please wear your Manchester Chevrolet shirt backwards for me, please? Says Dean Smith. No. I can't because it's funny you mentioned that because actually the player that's on the back of that I don't think it's appropriate to have it facing forward. So that's why. I have a few players' names, Mr. Dean Smith. I have a few kits, yeah, that are pretty much disgraceful to the United shirt that I can never wear them in public. And I go so far as to the fact of that, actually, their name should always be to the back of the wall. In this case, the back of the cabinets that I got back there. They should never be shown again. I am sort of I don't know what's the word. I'm sort of disappointed that I have them as kits on the back. They can never be shown. So and don't ask for me to show it. I'm not going to show it. I'm not going to show it. They're going to stay the way they are. Now I will tell you the red one. The red one with the AIG on it used to be Cristiano Ronaldo. And unfortunately, that thing on the back, the name peeled off and it's all messed up. And one day I will get it redone and refixed. That is Cristiano Ronaldo's kit, but I would have put the back on it, but you can't see it, so it's messed up. But anyway, back to what I was saying, and back to what we were talking about. So I think there's another hiccup into Manchester United trying to get a player like Elliot Anderson, who is clearly one of our main targets. There's a couple things. One, it seems like he's going to be cheaper in the summer, and two, I think even if Elliot Anderson chooses to come to Manchester United over every other club and he's super interested in our club, I think there is a little bit of fact in that it is a bit of a gamble if you're going to switch clubs in January and go from Forest to Manchester United, and we don't guarantee him unless Ruben and the rest of them agree to guarantee him a certain amount of playing time, which I don't know if they're going to be able to do that necessarily. And I don't know if they're going to be willing to do that, because I feel like you sort of kind of gotta, what we got now, I think even so, you probably got to come in and still prove yourself. I don't think anything should be handed to anybody just because maybe we're in need of it. You still have to come in and sort of earn your spot and earn your place. So I think that's a problem for that as well. We mentioned that Angelo Stiller is high on the short list, with Wilcox and Vivell holding him there. Ben Jacobs has also given us the update saying that, Manchester United want 2 midfielders next year. We've talked about this before. We've talked about how there could be a possibility of exactly how we did with the number 10s. It looks like we could do it with the midfield in terms of we could get 2 midfielders and a center back. I think that's sort of what we're leaning towards. I mean, considering that we sort of got the goalkeeper thing done and dusted, and it seems like left wing back seems to be a weird one. We seem to be getting an update, once a week saying that it's not really a priority. Then we get an update sort of the following week saying that United are still looking to do left wing backs. I don't know if left wing back actually needs to be a big priority. It depends on how the squad, the dynamic of the squad is shaped out. But yeah, this update, Ben Jacobs saying Manchester United want 2 midfielders next year. Angelo Stiller is high on Anderson. Okay, this is sort of Adam Wharton. They've tagged on Adam Wharton is also appreciated by Manchester. Now bear with me because a lot of these aggregators they sort of repeat stuff. But here is something that goes into the Angelo Stiller thing, saying Angelo Stiller is another name. Again, I apologize. I'm just trying to read the updates. At the moment, there is a release clause for the summer, but Stuttgart have the ability to pay about 2 million euros and buy out that release clause, which will make him more expensive during the summer. That's weird. At the moment, all right, let me click on this. Let me see if I get a bigger, better explanation than that. So at the moment, there's a release clause for the summer, but Stuttgart have the ability to pay about 2 million euros and buy out that release clause, which would make him more expensive during the summer. So, I mean, that's kind of, I'm just gonna say, I mean, it's kind of stupid. It's literally kind of stupid. I mean, I don't know how much money Stuttgart really have. Maybe 2 million is a lot for them. I don't know, but I just feel like that's really it's a stupid provision. Like, what is the point of having the release clause for the summer, and then you can buy out the release clause at 2 million and make him more expensive during the summer? So basically, he doesn't really have a release clause, or that thing is a bunch of BS to try and get somebody to pull the trigger on the release clause so that they can get the money for him. Also, I would like to know what the release clause is. So, I'm trying to see more information on this. You know, listen, he excels as a deep line playmaker, 92% pass accuracy in the 24-25 season. He's a tactical fit for United's need of midfield control. With the summer release clause exists, Stuttgart could pay 2 million euros. 2 million euros would void it, raising Stiller's 60 million valuation and complicating a January move, as echoed in recent goal. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I think it's a stupid. I think it's a. I don't really get. I mean, I get it from Stuttgart's point of view. I'm just saying from the player's point of view, and having that in there, it's really stupid. But I guess we got to see. Maybe that's just a ploy. Maybe they're trying to get people to go in on it. Maybe they would do it. You know, maybe if there's sort of a bidding war and they, you know, it's a safety for them, I guess. But I just find it from a player point of view. If I was the player and I had the contract, I think that kind of, you know, the buyout, the release clause is there to actually, you know, the release clauses were implemented to protect players. It's there to make sure that players don't sort of get held to ransom to the football club, because football clubs can be very unfair. And for example, there may be many people interested in Angelo Stiller, and if he doesn't have a necessarily release clause, you know, the football club can, if they really want to be bastards about it, they can say, well, you know, we want 200 million for Stiller, which is obviously nobody's going to pay for it, which means Stiller moves out to a good move to maybe a bigger and better club, and, you know, maybe his career suffers a little bit about it. That's the reason why there's buyout clauses. It's supposed to protect players. It's supposed to protect and keep sort of, and it's sort of an agreement between player and club that, hey, like, you will get paid and I will get my move. It's a fair type of thing. So I think from a player standpoint, I think it's a bit stupid that they can void his release clause for 2 million, which I view as pennies. I think it's dumb. But yeah. Oh, hold on. I lost a little bit of the updates. Go back. Yeah. So we did the Elliot Anderson one. I think that's going to be again. I still think Manchester United should be attempting all these. Ben Jacobs saying, I think the likelihood is Man United sign a minimum of 2 midfielders in 2026. We wait and see if it's one in January and one in summer. I think the best possible scenario would be one in January and one in summer. I think that would be a massive, because it's just less work to do in the summer. There's a World Cup that's going to be a pain in the ass to do transfers. If we can get one done in January, I think it would be absolutely massive. For not even, it would go into this season, but also for next season, also for the summer window. We have to remember the World Cup does make it difficult, and January is difficult. So if we're able to sign one in January, we've just helped ourselves out in the summer. And we're also helping ourselves out during this season, and maybe improving our chances to actually finish top 4, top 5, and get into a Champions League spot and be in, the biggest European competition there is. He also went on to say, as far as a January midfield signing goes, Conor Gallagher is currently the more feasible option. We've talked about that. He seems the most likely. I think at this sort of time, I think I'm leaning and I'm looking at it like probably most likely what I feel like is going to happen is we're going to try and make this move for Conor Gallagher. We're going to probably look to do a loan with an option to buy, just like other clubs have doing with our players. I think that's the best possible thing. I don't think we should accept a loan with a guarantee to buy. Again, I think when you're doing these sorts of deals, there is no reason. We would have first say if we have an option, an option to buy. There is no reason why we should be committing to a permanent deal where we are forced into it. Because if it doesn't go well, if he doesn't perform well, if we don't like the look of the player, or maybe we made a mistake on it, we can back out of it if it's just an option to buy. If it's a guarantee to buy, I mean, maybe we do what Chelsea did and we pay some sort of, penalty fee for backing out of it. But why would you even want to do that? I would like to keep all the money that we have and spend it on, players. So I think for Conor Gallagher, I think this is probably our best option. I actually sort of like it because I think he actually is one that he's very good with the pressing and he's very good at tackling, and he's sort of one that I think he does quite well. He's really like a box to box. He does quite well on both ends of the pitch, and I think he can add a lot more energy in the midfield. Yeah, so I think what's going to happen is, or what seems the most likely from this current standpoint at this current time, is that we are probably going to look to do a deal for Conor Gallagher, a loan, bring him in with an option to buy, and then if we like him, we'll sign him permanently at the end of the season, and that will be our one midfielder already basically done and dusted, and then we will look to do another deal, and I think it would probably go in the terms of either Wharton, Baleba, Elliot Anderson, Angelo Stiller, something like that. I mean, we got to wait and see, but this Conor Gallagher story keeps being brought up. It's not going away, and his sort of deal is, it fits our team, it fits Ruben's system, and it's the easiest one, and because it's the easiest one, it seems like the one that is most likely to get done in January. It's the best option we got to be able to get and bring a player in January. And Lyle says tough windows coming up, especially when we need to rebuild that midfield. Well, absolutely. And Ineos have another big sort of job. I mean, Jason Wilcox and everybody involved, like Vivell and stuff like that, they have a big, they have a tough job coming up. It's never an easy life at Manchester United anyway. It's always a tough job, but this is one that it makes life a lot more difficult. It's already difficult being in charge of Manchester United. January is difficult regardless, and then having to sort of navigate around the World Cup makes it all but more difficult. I mean, one of these players that are on our list, they may very well go to the World Cup. Or a lot of them are going to the World Cup, such as like an Elliot Anderson, going to the World Cup. If Elliot Anderson has a, brilliant World Cup, he ain't gonna go for much cheaper. Barring that, unless there is some sort of a buyout clause or provision that allows that to happen. But if those things aren't in somebody's contract that we're looking at, the price on these players is going to go up, which is going to mess us up, and it's going to make it, a harder situation for us to actually do a deal, and get the players that we want. A little bit more on that, it's like Atletico, when United made an approach in the summer, didn't want to do a loan. We'll have to wait and see whether they soften that position. If they're prepared to entertain a loan with a buy option, I think Manchester United will see that as good value. I think it's good value. For a permanent exit, it may be around 50 to 55 million euros, saying Ben Jacobs, and I'm not sure United will commit that financial outlay, knowing it's taking budget away from the summer. So again, I think if Atletico Madrid would be willing to do a loan with a buy option, it is sort of similar to like us. We've had to loan Rashford out with an option to buy. We've had to loan Rasmus out with an option to buy. We've had to do this with a bunch of players because people weren't really interested in paying the fee that we wanted to. And actually, Manchester United should be doing what teams are doing to us. We should be doing it back to them. And we shouldn't be like panicking and being desperate and saying, well, like, oh, Atletico won't loan him to us, so I guess we'll just have to pay. No, I mean, force their hand. We tried to do it in the summer. They have been stuck with him. They are still looking to move him on. It sounds very similar to us. We're looking to move players on. We can't really get somebody to buy. Good. Force their hand. Make them loan him to us with an option to buy. If it goes very well, then we can buy him and we'll have no problems. If it doesn't, we'll send him back to you and it's your problem and you deal with it. Thank you for the opportunity. We're going to go and move and look somewhere else on. We should not be committing to necessarily anything, because Conor Gallagher is not, while I don't think he would be a bad addition, he clearly is not, in my opinion, in the top 3 targets for Manchester United. So why should we be committing to a player that isn't actually necessarily seen as a top 3 target? He can come to Manchester United as a loan and play himself into being a top option, and that's a different story. But they don't view him as that sort of top target right now. He's just he's not in the top 3, but maybe he's in like the top 5 or 6. And he's one that we can use for this season, and we can, sort of do a test drive. So it makes sense to sort of do that. Let's see. Ben Jacobs has also given us an update about Carlos Baleba, saying, with Carlos Baleba, we know nothing is expected to happen mid-season. Brighton have never quoted a number. Player wants the move. If we get a mad summer race for Baleba for big money, then Manchester United have already done the groundwork, which is important, and we have done that. He also goes on to say, I'm not expecting any Baleba drama mid-season because Brighton simply don't want to even consider a full sale until we get to next summer. And this is why we're seeing sort of, this sort of, this is why we're seeing this sort of news that United possibly aren't going to do any transfer business or permanent deals in January, because I think, I still think that we should poke the bear. Why not? I mean, we have the groundwork laid out for Baleba. Why don't we test the waters? Why don't we poke Brighton a little bit? Why don't we see, how Baleba reacts to us doing that and go for it, even though they probably don't want to. I mean, I don't know, what that means. I mean, if we have the groundwork laid out, how much time does that take away from maybe looking at other players? Is there enough time in January to sort of be doing that sort of thing? I don't know. The club knows that, but from a fan standpoint, from the outside, I would like to see United just poke the bear a little bit and just test Brighton on it. I don't think we should just. I think we should be a little bit persistent about it. I think we should be a little bit annoying about it. So, this is why it seems like, Baleba, we're looking at Wharton, we're sort of looking at Elliot Anderson and Stiller I think makes like the top four-ish, and then there's Conor Gallagher. And it seems like no matter what we kind of will probably try to do, it probably seems very unlikely that we'll be able to get Baleba or Anderson. And I think that probably goes the same for Wharton as well. And then on top of that, there's the issue with Stiller as well. So, I'm just give me a second. Okay. So I don't know why this is happening. Why is this happening? Anyway, so moving on, since we are talking about the midfield, and I will go back to this in a second. So, so one thing that obviously we got the updates about, like Casemiro and stuff yesterday, and potentially, you know, Ruben rates him very highly, and if they would give him a 1-year contract extension, if he is willing to, not an extension but a new contract, yeah, for 1 year. Because it's not really an extension because he won't be on the same wage. So it will be a new contract with a new wage. Now, I said, just the same as I said for Harry Maguire, I don't think it's necessarily such a bad thing. Especially, I think it really determines, you know, if we're in Europe or not, if we're going to be playing more matches. Because if we need a bigger squad and we need a bigger, you know, we need more players, I think it could work. If we're in sort of the same situation that we're in now, and we're going to be moving to new targets, then I just don't think that there's probably enough room for either one of them, and then therefore there's no real point in keeping them, because then I think it gets very cramped, and there's not really a point to it. But if we need a bigger squad, keeping them around for like an extra year or two, year or so, while we're in sort of this transition and growing, keeping them around for mentality, leadership, attitude, helping some of these other players that are coming in get adjusted to Manchester United life, or you know, just the pressure of having to perform at the highest level, which in Casemiro's case, I mean, the guy's won everything, and you know, he had a fantastic career in Real Madrid, and he's been performing well at Manchester United, and every time people say that, you know, he's done and dusted, he always has a resurgence and comes back and is actually pivotal to our team. And with Casemiro, just this real quick, with Casemiro on the pitch, Manchester United concede only once every 129 minutes. Without him on the pitch, Manchester United are conceding every 29 minutes. So Casemiro is quite pivotal. Apologize for the dog. Casemiro has been quite pivotal. Now, I said this again, you know, at the Spurs match. After the Spurs match, I think the biggest hurt that we had in that match was taking Casemiro off. Many people didn't give Casemiro a high rating for that game. They gave him about a 6. I thought he was actually higher than that. 6 is average, by the way. But they gave him a fairly average score. Casemiro was the only one that was doing a job in the midfield. Casemiro was the only one that was actually he was actually making an impact for us. And as soon as he went off the pitch, the tackle stopped, the retention of the ball stopped. I know sometimes he doesn't have the legs to keep up with the pace, but there is nobody actually in our current squad that can do the defensive job like he does. You know, Ugarte is supposed to be the guy that is sort of his backup or his substitute, but Ugarte is still not on the level of Casemiro. Sometimes Ugarte does well. He's been inconsistent, and sometimes he doesn't. And when Ugarte came in for in the Spurs match, the difference between making himself a presence in the midfield compared to Casemiro was night and day. You know, Ugarte in that situation was like following people around, but he wasn't getting stuck in on the ball. He wasn't actually making an impact. He was just following people around and tracking them, but that wasn't enough. Because if you're not doing it, then there isn't really many other players. Like Bruno was no help, and Bruno's never going to really do that. And then maybe you have the likes of maybe Ahmad, but he's not really a defensive player. but I think he does a good job on that anyway. So this is why we need another midfielder. We don't have somebody to actually outperform Casemiro in the way he plays the game and what he does importantly on the pitch in the middle of the field for us. Unfortunately, the downside of Casemiro is that he is getting slower as he ages, which is a hard thing to keep up with when you're in the Premier League and it's such a high-paced thing. So again, with Casemiro on the pitch, United concede only once every 129 minutes, which is, 90 minutes a match. You go into that's another, it's about a match and a half, a little bit less, but it's about a match and a half. Every match and a half, we're conceding a goal with Casemiro on the pitch. Without Casemiro on the pitch, we're conceding every 30 minutes. Which, if you put that in the context of a match, we're conceding 3 goals a game. We're conceding 3 goals a game when Casemiro isn't on the pitch. Which actually, if you look at it in the Spurs match, when Casemiro came off, how many goals did we concede? After he came off, we conceded 2 goals. When Casemiro was on the pitch, we conceded 0 goals. So he is highly pivotal. We need a sort of replacement to go into the future with it. But, yeah. And just to go into that, Fabrizio Romano, giving us an update saying Ruben Amorim would love to keep Casemiro. There will be talks about extending his contract, but his current salary is too high for Manchester United. Absolutely is. We need that to be lowered. And I think where we probably stand at the moment in time is, like I said yesterday, I mean, for us in this situation, I kind of feel like we hold all the cards. I don't really, I don't really care in terms of, for a certain aspect, I don't really care if Ruben Amorim rates, would love to keep Casemiro. I think it then just goes into sort of the aspect of, I think United in this situation sort of holds the cards a little bit in terms of we're not succumb so much to player power. And we don't have to be so desperate to keep Casemiro. Amorim might really rate him, but at the end of the day, we need to be able to have him on for a wage for an extra year that makes sense. And he obviously clearly isn't going to be able to start and play 90 minutes every match. So, in my opinion, I would lowball him. You know what? I don't even think it's really lowball, but it's a low ball when you consider what he's making now and probably what he would like to get. But I would probably make an offer of somewhere around 100,000 a week for another year, and the perk is that you get to stay and play at Manchester United. And if he doesn't want that wage, then thank you. We appreciate you, Uncle Cass, but it's just not going to work out like that. Go somewhere else, maybe Saudi or something. You get paid an extremely amount of good money. But yeah, I don't think we can. I don't think we should be giving him anywhere close to probably what he wants. I think he probably wants around 200,000 because he's looking at his contract and saying, "Well, I'm getting 350K. I'll accept a lower wage, but you offer me 100K. That's crazy." And I'd be like, "Well, go have your go have your wage somewhere else." Mary Earps concedes on a return to Old Trafford. Yes, the women are playing right now. I believe they're up 1-0. Yes, actually they are. Man United women 1, PSG women 0. So very, very good for the women. Hope they go out and win that. Keep us updated, Lyle, on the women and how they're doing. Yeah, I hope Mary Earps gets I hope she gets the humbling for leaving us. She should have stayed. She didn't rate us as the world's best, and she left us. And now we need to humble her. To remind her that Manchester United is the greatest institution. And when you leave United, there isn't many places, there's very few in the world, whether it's men's or women's, that you're going to go up from there. So, Also on the other update, Fabrizio said there will be a discussion about Casemiro and Harry Maguire's contracts, as their salaries are considered too high for Manchester United. Unless a solution is found, they could leave for free next summer. And I totally agree with this. Again, with Maguire and Casemiro, I don't really find a whole big problem in terms of, you know, I don't really find a big problem in terms of necessarily keeping them if we can get them on sort of a good wage and stuff like that. But it needs to make sense. It needs to make sense in terms of, for Manchester United, if they're going to be players that are going to become squad players, we need to get them on the right wage. If not, then unfortunately they do need to go. Like, they can't stay at Manchester United. I think there's nothing wrong, and I've been saying this for weeks. And I was listening to Terry Flewers this morning, and he was talking about how underrated mentality and attitude is in professional football, and I think it's highly underrated. I've been saying this for months on ends now, and it's always been part of my belief, and it's going to continue being part of my belief because I think it is absolutely straight facts. And whether you like it or not, and we've had people here that hate Harry Maguire and don't rate him and think he's absolute shit. And while I would say I don't think he's a world-class player, I think to take into account what he's gone through at this football club and to come out on the other side and actually put in good performances, and actually he's dug us out of some holes, and he's been actually really important over the last couple of years. I think I said this the other day, you can't buy that. You can't necessarily buy that. That's something that you have to go through. That's something that's earned. He has a certain experience with that. He can guide certain players at this football club, whether they're young or a little bit older, like, maybe the likes of Sesko, for example. It could have maybe happened with Rasmus Højlund as well. When there is a period of time where they're going to struggle with form, then maybe they'll struggle with scrutiny. This is a large place to be. It's a monster to be at. A player like Maguire or a player like Casemiro, I think, is important to keep around to guide those players through and to get past that and to come out on the other end and succeed at Manchester United. So I think they are important to sort of hold on to, but it has to come at a certain price. It can't be, we can't say we got to keep them because of, mentality or attitude or experience and say that that's worth $250,000 a week when they're going to become squad players. But some people seem to have an extensive problem with keeping the likes of maybe a Casemiro or a Maguire because they view it as Manchester United will not sign new players. It's going to stop sort of the progression, maybe of some other players, or I've heard people make arguments that Casemiro would have been shipped out. I mean, look at Pep Guardiola; he shipped out Kevin De Bruyne immediately. But I think we're in two different positions, and our clubs are in two different sort of places. Pep Guardiola has been there for years. And the foundation for Manchester City and sort of the ethos and the atmosphere is different. They are sort of doing a rebuild, and we are in a rebuild, but our rebuilds are totally two different rebuilds. And we are in two different positions. So I don't think you can necessarily look and say Pep Guardiola getting rid of Kevin De Bruyne is a big club move, and Manchester United keeping Casemiro for another year and giving him a reduced wage is not a big club move. I think it's two totally different circumstances. So I don't really buy into that argument. I don't at all. So, but there is a couple more updates in this. So one of them is that Napoli still have Kobbie Mainoo on their January midfield shortlist. Any move hinges on Manchester United, who are determined to keep him. Manchester United don't seem to really be interested in. They don't seem to be interested in letting Kobbie Mainoo go out on loan. And I know this has divided a lot of opinion, but I feel a bit worried about this in terms of that. I feel like it's just going to cost. It's going to cost. I feel like it might potentially cause an issue. Between Kobe Mainu and the football club. Now, Kobe might just continue to be very, very professional. He might pull his feelings aside. He might, get over it maybe at some point if he does miss out on going to England and United don't let him go out. Or maybe it makes him feel a little bit hard done by the football club, and maybe it grows into a bigger problem. I hope that's not the case. But this is me worrying, and this is me having like a sort of a strange, it's what my gut is feeling into. Now, I can tell you this: if we go and let's look at United fans reacting to this. People are saying glad United are holding on to him. Kobe has the talent to shine here. Mainu remains a hot prospect. Will Man United hold on to the rising star? Some of this shit is bots. I mean, it's sad what has happened sort of to the internet, yeah, because you can't even get real replies anymore. You can't even get real replies anymore about things. It's literally all bots, and you could tell. And if it's not bots, people are so what's sad about the internet? People are so desperate for to get likes and retweets or whatever it is, that they can't even give you a real opinion and a real comment anymore. They literally take the topic, put it in ChatGPT, take ChatGPT's response, and post it as a reply. It's really, really sad. It's really, really sad. It's killed, actually, the realism of this. I was trying to get responses about this, but when you go in it, you could just tell that it's a bot or that it's not real. Troy Deeney, this jackass. Troy Deeney. If I could see Troy Deeney, if I could have a one-on-one conversation with Troy Deeney, I would roast him into oblivion. I hate him in terms of I hate his loudmouth and opinions. He is a big jackass, and he is one of these guys that he probably doesn't deserve the attention he gets, and he only gets it really because he is an ex-football player. But I've just come across Troy Deeney saying that, talking about Benjamin Sesko, saying that he looks like a baby giraffe. I don't see what he does. He's 6'4", honestly. And he says, I piss stronger than him at times. He doesn't run over people. He's always on his heels. And I think somebody somewhere in the world needs to grab Troy Deeney and tell him, mate, you talk like you were Wayne Rooney. You talk like you're Teddy Sheringham. You talk like you're Ruud van Nistelrooy. You talk like you're R9. You were not a good footballer. You weren't. You suck. And who are you to be talking like that about a kid that in my opinion, is going to have a better career and be a better striker than you are? Who are you to talk in that manner? Because that's not having a football opinion and having a constructive criticism type of thing. This is him talking shit and him being a jackass. Yeah? In what world does a person that actually played the game, that was a player in that position, what type of person gives that sort of opinion? Because one, I think it's fake and it's for clicks and views, and that's what he does. But also, it's sad that a guy like this is it's sad like a guy like this is given such a big platform. He shouldn't be given a platform like that. He shouldn't. I mean, he was literally a bum. If he wants the same sort of treatment that he's given my player, well, you were a bum. You weren't good. You couldn't even lick the bottom of the boot of Wayne Rooney. You couldn't even touch it. You couldn't even smell it. That is a dumb comment from Deeney. He's a dumb person. He is. And that's why he's a footballer, unfortunately. Because not to insult footballers, but A lot of them are not, it's kind of like the working class. They're not really, they're not really the smartest, most educated people. And a lot of them, if they weren't footballly talented, they would be flipping burgers somewhere or something like that. And I don't mean to throw dirt on a lot of them, but I'm just saying that you do get sort of these ignorant type of people that are footballers that because they are famous for their talent, they then end up getting a platform to speak. And clearly, obviously, here he's being used. Like he's being used, not in the way that like he doesn't know what that he's being used. He's bought into it, because he's been given a platform and a job. So the more attention he gets, the more likely he is to get bought back on, and that's what they are fishing for. So, but Elias says, it's only 6 months. I say let him go out on loan, and he's talking about Kobe, and we could let him go out on loan. We could let him go out on loan, but we could actually do that. And I'm starting to lean more into it because I just really feel like, I just really feel like that. I just really feel like that he probably needs to go out on loan. I don't think I don't know if he's going to get the real opportunity this season. And like I just said, for the youth players, I mean, if he doesn't have the real opportunity to actually break into the team, if there isn't actually some concrete plan to get him there, then what is the point of really keeping him around? You know what I mean? It's the same as like somebody like a Harry Amass or something like that. If there isn't like a clear pathway for them to actually get the minutes that they need and the game time that they need, then what is the actual point of actually trying to keep a hold of them? I think United are sort of maybe playing a bit of a game here, though, that they're not really willing to let him go unless they can secure some type of, basically, I would put it like this. If United can't get Conor Gallagher in, like on a loan, then they can't necessarily let Kobe Mainoo go. I understand that argument, and I understand how that makes sense for the football club. Because again, we still need to have like backups and stuff like that. We still need to have depth in that position. We can't just let Kobe Mainoo go on loan and just have Ugarte. And that's about it, So we would need to figure something out. I think United can't necessarily give I don't think United can necessarily give an answer at this moment in time and say, listen, Manchester United, I don't think United can say, listen, we'll let you go out on loan. And then they go into January and they end up not, maybe they're not able to bring somebody in January. And then they have to tell Kobe, well, listen, we got to go back on our word. And we can't let you go out on loan because this happened. Because I think that would just make it a sort of a bigger issue. Even if they told him right now, and maybe they have told him this, and maybe it just hasn't come out, and we're not aware, and maybe they haven't necessarily alerted other clubs to it. But I still think maybe it could cause a problem if you're like, listen, we'll probably let you go out on loan, but we have to make sure that, we're going to be able to get somebody else in before we can let you do that. So, and Lyle says, I think we save that relationship with Mainoo. Let him get into the World Cup squad because it will benefit us. And the PSG equalized with the Stunner 1-1. First goal conceded in the league phase. Well, they gotta bounce back. They gotta tighten up. Where did we leave ourselves? Okay, yes. So, all right. Forget Troy Deeney. He threw me into rage. Troy Deeney is a jackass. Anyway. What else was I looking at here? Yeah, so right now we're looking at Gallagher, Stiller, Warden, and Anderson. How long have we been live for? Is what I need to see. 2 hours. Okay. So, there was one or two more updates here. One of the updates that I found, I don't know, it came from James Ducker in the Telegraph, which is, I don't know why this is freezing on me. Why is this freezing on me? So one of them is Manchester United is launching 78 minutes or so. Is that where we're at? So there's not a lot of time left. For the stream. What is that? 60 an hour. Okay, so we have a little bit left to go. So Manchester United is launching a social media crackdown to prevent staff from posting self-promotional and unimproved behind-the-scenes material related to the first team and a wider football setup. Senior club officials are concerned about the volume of unsanctioned content entering the public domain and want greater control over what is shared. The club plans to issue new guidelines to staff clarifying what is considered inappropriate for personnel social media use in an effort to keep private information contained within the club. Now, I don't know exactly what this necessarily pertains to and what I mean by that is I haven't seen instances, and I'm not aware, and that's not saying that it's not happening, but I'm not aware of I haven't seen videos or anything of people that are maybe inside of the club posting sort of self-promotional sorts of things, and unapproved sort of behind the scenes material, because I don't follow these people and I haven't actually seen them pop up on my timeline or anything like that. So I don't know how big of a problem this is, but clearly, obviously, we don't want that happening at our football club. I mean, we've had leaks before and we need to keep a tighter ship for sure. And yeah, these things just can't be happening. So for Manchester United, we clearly need to get a hold on that, and whatever they got to do that, I will encourage it, because I think probably it could lead to something being quite damaging to the football club. You know what I mean? If something was supposed to come out, we want to be a professional football club. And Manchester United is a very big place. It's very hard to police all these people, especially in today's time. Anybody can record something. They could also make a bunch of fake accounts. They could give it. There's ways to hide this. I don't think you can ever stop it 100%, but that doesn't mean that you just let it happen. I think that goes for a lot of things that goes on in today's world and society. You're never going to stop all crime. You're never going to stop all murder. You're never going to stop all sorts of illegal activities. Does that mean that you just say, well, we're never going to be able to get it to zero, so why bother with it? That's how more of it happens. That is the wrong approach. And that would be the wrong approach here. Just because we can't 100% get rid of it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be constantly trying to, come down on it, and it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be policing it, because we should be having it as the minimum impact as possible, which is the best solution as possible. So Grace is here, and Grace says, and Grace always comes with the excellent questions. So how you doing, Grace, by the way? And Grace says, how would you deal with buying first-team quality players and bringing through youth? If you buy 2 new midfielders and keep any 2 of the current lot, where does Kone, Thwaites, and Fletcher fit in? It's a very good question. I think it's actually one that's quite difficult, Grace, to sort of, because I don't think it's sort of straightforward in terms of, I don't think it's as easy as sort of a plug and play. I think people get a lot of ideas from the way they would do it and I play Football Manager. I don't take it against anybody that plays Football Manager and sort of uses that as sort of maybe a small template for real life or anything like that. But my idea to this is that I understand what you're saying, and I understand the concern. I think, again, we would need to strike a balance. Now, listen, it's not my job. I'm not a professional in this area. I don't run Manchester United. I'm just a fan. But in my opinion, I think if you buy the two new midfielders, I think the two new midfielders comes with sort of the thing of that. Obviously, Casemiro would end up going within a year if we keep him. If he doesn't go this year, and also you're sort of looking at Bruno Fernandes, and he's also coming to a point that he would end up going as well. So it would kind of be like those two guys are essentially going to be replacements there. Then we have Kobe Mainu, who was a third guy. I think I think Ugarte, there's question marks over him. And then when you talk about the youth players such as Kone, Thwaites, and Fletcher, I think, like I talked about in the beginning of the show, what we need to do is, if they don't have a real chance of sort of breaking in there, maybe they're not ready, maybe they need some more experience, I think the best way is to just loan them out. I think the best way is to loan them out. I think once they've hit the spot of they're excelling quite well for the under-21s, they need to take the next step. I think we need to find more of a middle ground between the under-21s and going into Manchester United's first team, which would be a loan to what I would like is a championship team, or if they're even that good enough, a Premier League club. Let them do that there and have them come back to us and then move forward with that. And then I think really it comes with survival of the fittest, in my opinion. I think, if you're one of these youth players, if you are that good, at some point you will win the battle and you will force yourself into the team. But it is one that I don't see it as sort of straightforward as I think many people out there kind of say it is. Oh, just put him in, or just giving him an opportunity, or just do this or just do that. I think with youth players, it is a long road. It is a long process. It's one that is, it takes time, and it takes a lot of nurturing, and it takes a lot of patience with them. And you have to make sure you get a lot of things right along the way. But Grace also says, do you buy one and trust one of the youth? There's no good right backs in our academy. Delo will be here till he's 48. Well, actually, I think there might be one or two, but they are quite young still. And actually, I think that they have still a long road. I think there's a potential to get one or two, but I think that they need to grow a bit more. And I think in terms of for them coming in right now, I think they're far away. I can't remember their names, but I remember there is one or two players in there. If I actually pull up a list of, if I actually pull up the list, I could tell you, because I just can't remember them off the top of my head. And Grace also says, I would like Wharton and Ederson. Both played the formation and would suit each other perfectly. Keep Mainu and bring in two academy players. I think that's sort of the move. I think that's exactly what we can do. And I think that's actually a good path. And obviously, I want to keep Kobe Mainu, and I think Kobe Mainu can absolutely be part of that, and there's no reason not to. And I think it actually would be good competition because they're kind of around all the same age. Now, Wharton and Ederson are getting a lot more sort of match experience and game time compared to Kobe, especially this season. Kobe got a lot, about 2 seasons ago, 2 to 3 seasons ago. But I think if you're looking to the future, if you're looking into the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, I was thinking about Anderson. Sorry, not Ederson. I was thinking about Anderson. I thought you meant Anderson. Ederson. Yeah. Well, that's even balanced as well, because Ederson is he would be near his prime. Warren's on the younger side, Mainu's on the younger side, and then you have 2 youth players as well. You could go down that path. It's not a bad path. And 1 year left as well. It's not a bad path. There is some sort of a balance there as well. You could even deviate that a little bit, and maybe if you don't bring in necessarily the 2 academy players immediately, like I'm talking about for like next season specifically, you have the plans for the two academy players, the ones that seem the brightest. Again, send them alone. Send them alone. Let them get the match experience that they need. Let them grow a little bit more. I sort of made the argument at the beginning of the show that, like, if you're going to be good enough for Manchester United first team, then if we send you on loan to like a Sheffield Wednesday, for example, and you're playing in the championship, then you should be able to get into their team and you should be able to, perform well. That's like the whole point. So, and then maybe you bring them in the next year or the year after that. I don't think there's any rush with the youth players up until, a certain point. So we could do that. I think that Grace, that plan, Grace, solely. I think it depends how that shapes out on depending on what season we have. Because if we have a good season and we get back into Europe and we're going to have more matches and we're going to need more rotation, then I think we have the room to allow it. Also, I think, if we show signs that the squad and the club are growing and our structure is more stable, we're a more stable club, our first team is more stable, like in terms of we are more consistent and we are putting in better performances on a consistent basis, and our environment is becoming more positive, then I think the dynamic changes, because I think then we can start actually doing things like Arsenal does now, and even Liverpool and Manchester City. I talked about this the other day. Like, if you look at Manchester City, when they first started, trying to build the club into what they've built it into, they didn't really have youth players. They never used youth players. They farmed a lot of youth players. They were snatching up a lot of youth players and keeping them in the youth team, but they wouldn't play youth players. They wouldn't call them up from, the reserves and put them into the first team. They were never giving opportunities. Now they are. And they would always, they were snatching them up and loaning the hell out of all of them. But it took a while for them to really get put in there. And that's because I think you have to create a place that is like sort of a winning place and a good environment. And then you bring in these kids later on. In the meantime, while you're working on the first team, the youth players are going to grow and become a better team. So, Grace says maybe keep Ugarte for one more season and let Kone and Thwaites and Fletcher go to the championship for 1 year, then sell Ugarte and let the 3 youngsters for the fourth spot. And I think that's probably one of the better ways to go. Again, I think, Grace, we need to trust the people we have at the football club now. I think that they do have a clear sort of plan and idea. I think Jason Wilcox is very good with those things. I think Favel is good with those sorts of things. I think he's good with like identifying young players and getting these players and sort of having a path with them. I think even Ruben Amorim is sort of good with that, because I think he believes in that sort of stuff. I just think that he's one that's a lot more patient with it. And I think that probably has to do with the fact of that he wasn't a player too long ago. So I think he really understands the modern game. And he's also had his own processes at Sporting with it as well. And again, this misconception, and I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, but there was this misconception that Ruben, and as soon as he walked into Sporting, he threw out all the shitty old players and just bring in a bunch of youth players and made them superstars. And that's not how it went down. It took a year or two for the kids to actually become starters. It took a year or two for them to actually start overtaking senior players. Like Giovanni Quenda, for example, became a starter at 17 years old. But Ruben was already there for 2-3 years. Like, that, it's not like he just took Quenda out as a 15, 16-year-old and threw him into the first team. And also with Ruben, I think it goes across the board. You have to prove that you're better than whatever he's got available, and you force your way in. And that's why I still think with like Kobe Mainu, there's still an opportunity there. So, and Grace says, I don't just want to bring in the youth for the sake of it. Fans have to realize not everyone will come through. This isn't 1992. I don't want to hear. I don't want another Mano situation where we give him the world. And I completely agree with you, Grace. And that's literally exactly where I stand now. Unfortunately, I think there is. I don't know how to split it. I don't know really the percentage of it. I think there is a large section of people that sort of understand that sentiment, Grace. But I also think there is a large section of people that get, again, like I said, they get their knickers in a twist about it. They feel like we're not promoting the youth. Some of them feel like we're killing the youth. I don't think that's true. I just don't. I think previously, prior to Ineos coming in, I don't think we had the best setup for the youth. And I think managers have been reluctant to do so. But I don't feel like having Jason Wilcox here and knowing what he's about, knowing about how Ruben Amorim handled the situation with the youth at Sporting and what he says and what he believes in, having the likes of Christopher Vavell, who likes young talent as well, having all these guys at Manchester United, and I think the changes that they've made, I think there is quite a clear plan. I think they are, even the scouting, even the buying of these young guys, names I've never heard of before, playing in leagues that, we used to ask for 4 or 5 years ago and saying, I wish Manchester United could do a deal like that. Why can't they bring this player in when he's like 14, 15 and nobody knows about him? And we buy him for 1.8 million. And we're doing exactly that. But to get, to reap the benefits of that, when you do that, we're going to have to wait. And I don't understand why people feel like when a player hits 18 years old, they should be thrown into the first team. I don't really understand where that sort of sentiment comes from. I don't know if it's from video games. I don't know if it's like a football manager thing or a FIFA career mode thing, because I tend to do it. But at the end of the day, I do understand there is a difference between real life and a video game. Like when I start a football manager save, I do bring in like 2 or 3 very young players that they tell you are going to be absolute superstars, and their rating is a 5 or their potential ability is very, very high, or they're one of the best in the game. So he's going to become one. So you keep him around on the bench. You start throwing him in as many times as you possibly can, because obviously you want him to hit the ability. But it's a fucking video game at the end of the day. It's not real life. Real life, there is shit that happens. Like, not to get too dark, but like, people have bad performances. We're human beings. They have feelings. They have issues with family members. There's pressures of the world. Like, it's not just, it's not robotic. It's not just like you play the match, they grow. There is issues in life that you have to navigate along with these young players. They are kids becoming grown men. It's not just straightforward. And I think also there's probably another aspect, Grace, that because people see the likes of Lamine Yamal, and they've seen Ronaldo, and they've seen Messi, I feel like some of them have gone crazy, and they think that if you take a player at the age of 16, 17, and you throw him into the first team, all of them can become superstars. I think they believe that every single player can become some world-class alien that we've never seen before, and is going to become the greatest superstar to ever grace, the planet. A little bit of a pun intended, Grace, and that's just not true. That's just not true. And I think people need to open their minds a little bit and open their eyes, and for a lack of a better term, and to be quite blunt, they need to pull their head out of their ass. The PG version of that is pull their head out of the clouds. Look what has happened to the likes of Ansu Fati. I wish we had a larger audience right now, and I wish we had a larger reach, because I would like to ask the masses, tell me where Ansu Fati is playing right now. Because I guarantee you, 95% of them wouldn't be able to tell me without looking it up. And some people, and nobody talks about Ansu Fati anymore, but they praised the shit out of him, and they thought he was the second coming of Messi, or something like that. And look what happened to him. He got burned out, he got injured, and he's done, unfortunately. He will be no longer, and it's sad, but the way it's trending for him, he will no longer, he will be at best a par average player. And Grace says Monaco, and that's where he is. But was it Monaco or wasn't it? I thought it was a German club. I thought it was like some lower German club. Oh no, it is Monaco. Yeah, he's at Monaco. 8 matches, 5 goals. He's actually doing all right, but nobody talks about him the way they talk about him. And they put, they did a lot of bad, like they overused him. And like just to go back into like, Grace's point again, it's not 1992, and even in 1992, Grace, again, this misconception of people that 92, 94, 99, and we had that great group and that golden generation. We didn't just get Giggs, Beckham, Scholes, Butt, and Neville and say, yeah, you guys are the top talent. Here you go, start every match. It didn't happen like that. The revisionism of the history is quite insane. Nobody takes into account the squad dynamics. Nobody takes into account how long Sir Alex Ferguson was there, the planning that went behind that, the people that were there, the process that we had to go through to actually develop those kids into becoming, superstars and legends. And how long it actually took. And I know why, because the human brain does something where it says, yeah, they started in this, they started in this year, and then they became superstars. And it skips over all the hard work. It skips over all, the trials and tribulations. There's no way Giggs, Scholes, Beckham, there's no way every appearance that they ever played, every opportunity that they got, they did fantastically well. They had shit games. They had to struggle for minutes. And eventually, at some point, they got more and more and more as they started to grow, and they would get more opportunities. But when I look at that sort of situation, United is not, we are not where, I kind of feel like it's maybe not necessarily history repeating itself in that manner, but in the fact that, like, when Sir Alex took over the club, United was in a place of sort of just despair. And when he came in, it took him a few years. And there was things that were like showing indication. But again, he did almost lose his job. Now, he gave, I think, hope to people because he ended up winning that FA Cup. And I think that was something that I always talk about. You got to give something to the fans to hold on to. But, if you look at us, we just won the FA Cup recently. We just won the Carabao Cup. Those things aren't necessarily going to do something for us. We need more than that. But, like, if I look at it, like, we've been dismal. It feels the same. And only after a certain period of time was that Sir Alex actually really started to start getting really close, to start saying, no, he's actually built something here. But it wasn't instantaneous. It wasn't instantaneous. Nick Cox did a phenomenal job as academy director, says Lyle, and Stephen Trophy will most likely continue to work. Our academy is fine. Our kids will get chances eventually. Yeah, I think they will. And Nick Cox he's a very, he did do a phenomenal job, and he was a very good, head of youth development. And I don't think that's where the issue really lied. I think the issue just lied in the broader stance of Manchester United. I don't think it wasn't down to him. It was just more of the club planning and the way the club was, what was the actual plan. And what was the actual way that they were moving to develop players. Because Nick Cox actually is probably one of the best, around the world in terms of that position. We did have one of the best. I think it was just under Nick Cox, under the head of youth development, and the way the way it was like streamlined or not streamlined, the process that it went through, I think was a bit messed up. And also, you have to remember, I think from the period of, when Sir Alex retired to, I don't know what period it would be, but for a certain amount of years, we kind of put that really on the back burner and the back end because we started doing Galactico signings under Ed Woodward and signing, all these big names, and sort of ignoring that thing because the youth players couldn't, in their eyes, youth players couldn't bring that amount of clicks and that they couldn't bring that amount of attention And they couldn't also, be written off as assets, like signing a Bastian Schweinsteiger or a Zlatan Ibrahimovic or, Pogba for 100 million or Harry Maguire for 100 million. Not everyone will make it at United. It's the name of the game, and only a few can come up and hit the ground running. And people have to sort of accept that as well. I think there's some weird sort of like, listen, I love our youth players, and I want nothing more than to have the story of, look at one of our own. He was, he joined United at 5 years old, and, now he's 18, and he's one of the best players in the world. We all love that story, and we would want that story as much as possible. But people also need to, like, come to grips with reality a little bit and understand that, look at the list of players that we have that are youth prospects. There are some players out there. There are some people out there that truly believe that, like, out of 2 squads of youngsters, so you're talking about the under 18s and the under 21s, they think that every single one of these are going to be absolute ballers. Like, and I see it online because of the way they talk about them. Like, in the under 18s, we have Godwill Kokoni, Ngwashi, Albert Mills, Jacob Watson, Rafe McCormick, Yul Halafu, Dan Armour, Dante Plunkett, James Overy, Edward Ibrahimovic Fletcher, Jarius Shah, Jay McKeevy, James Bailey, Amir Ibrahimov, Jim Thwaites, Bandito Montato, Louis Bradbury, Nathaniel Jr. Brown, Samuel Lusale, Noah Jai, and Nathan Barboza. And that's just the under 18s team. If you go into the under 21s, we got a whole nother squad. There is no way that all of these people, there's no way that all of these kids are going to be able to make it. There's just no way. And in actuality and normal, I would probably say, out of all of these players, tops 4 or 5, are going to be like the top class players that we need. Maybe you could throw in another 1 or 2 and say that they become squad players. But if we're getting 4 or 5 superstars or world-class players out of these groups of players, it's actually probably a very good return rate. United ahead once again 2-1. Come on. What minute's the game in, by the way? Yeah, it has to be managed. You can't just accept, you can't just throw in kids and accept the superstar. And that's where I feel like people kind of jump into. I think many people talk about it in the way like they skip the process. They're just like, oh, give him game time and then he'll become a good player. And it's just like, but that doesn't work like that. Like, I understand that they do need game time to be able to develop and grow and to become better players. But how come, if you truly believe, this would be my rebuttal to them. If you truly believe that these youth players that we have are good enough to become good at Manchester United and succeed, then why wouldn't you be advocating them for them to go out on loan so that they can actually play way more minutes than they're ever going to play at Manchester United at their current age and ability? And then they come back to us even better and even more grown. And then, it's just better for us. Like, I never hear them make an argument in terms of like, listen, he's a real player and one day he's going to make it. Let's loan him out. Let's give him the game time. Like, why? I don't understand why it has to be like, oh, we got, an excellent prospect in the under 21s. He has to go from the under 21 straight into United's first team. If he's that good, wouldn't you expect him to go out on loan, succeed in the loan, play like an insane amount of minutes that he's not going to even play, at Manchester United at that current time? And then, since they're so good, they should have a good loan. They should be able to come back, and then they should be able to make their way into the team. Like, for me, and I think it's a prime example. For me, and the prime example is, you guys know that I rate Harry Amass, and I think Harry Amass can be one that's going to be a good player. There are some other ones, but I haven't talked about them yet because I don't think that they're in the position. And I think circumstances matter. You know, when I talked about a lot about Harry Amass, we didn't have a damn left back for like about 2 seasons. So I was like, he might not be ready, but the situation that the club found themselves in, I was like, we're literally playing without a left back. I was like, it doesn't make sense to not even give the kid a try. Now, he ended up getting, you know, last season under Ruben Amorim, and now he's been sent out on loan. You don't see, like, these other people, like, that I see, that they talk about Cheeto, like, and it's nothing against Cheeto, and I hope Cheeto does become, like, a superstar. But there are people that I see that talk about Cheeto, like, they think that we can grab Cheeto, put Cheeto in the starting lineup right now, today, over Benjamin Sesko, and the manner in which they talk about him is like Cheeto is going to go and start banging fucking goals in and performing like, you know, I don't know, like prime Dwight York or some shit. And it's just like, you know, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, that's not going to happen. And the way they talk about him, if we sent Cheeto out on loan, they're going to have like a mental breakdown or whatever. Because they're going to be like, oh, we should have gave him the opportunity at United. Like, you know, why are we sending him out on loan? We could use him, blah, 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 blah. I rate Harry Amass. When they loaned out Harry Amass, did I come on this channel and start having, you know, flipping out and saying, why did we loan out Harry Amass? We should have kept Harry Amass. We, you know, why did we loan out Harry Amass? No, because I know that Harry Amass is being loaned out for the betterment of himself, because they knew and they made the correct decision that this year this squad is going to be it's going to be very hard to get minutes. It's too large for the competition, for the amount of competitions we have. He's not going to really get the minutes, and if he stays here, it's actually going to do more damage for him. And so we find a loan for him to the championship. Let him play, and I have faith in Harry Amass, and he's doing very well at Sheffield Wednesday, and he's getting valuable game time. But, you know, I was never concerned that, oh, we sent out Harry Amass, so we're going to end up selling him. You know, that's not how that works. You know, it's do or die. It's survival of the fittest. If you're good enough, you will make it, one way or another. If you are good enough, you should be able to go to a championship team, get in the championship team, play in the championship team, be a part of that team, grow, develop, and you come back to Manchester United. And when the opportunity arises, when you are ready, once you hit the level, you will get more opportunities at Manchester United. You know, it's not a cynical thing at Manchester United. You know, we're not. Some people, I feel like, talk about it in the manner of like we're purposely trying to destroy our youth and we hate our youth players. I don't really get it. Fans are turning on Dorgu already. If the youth come in as a first choice, they will get hate immediately. I think they should spend 2 to 3 years being rotation in cup games before they even considered. I completely agree, Grace. I completely, totally, 100% agree with you. And there's many fans out there that they say, you know, and you know what? I'll put it this way, Grace. And I'll call it out for what it is, yeah? Because unfortunately, there is a bit of bias. There is a bit of bias. I don't know what you want to call it. Maybe it's a little bit of like foreignism, if that's even the word. But I know people like this exist. I'm not saying they're the majority, but there are people out there like this exist. One, I think the only thing I would push back on that, Grace, is if it is a youth player that is comes in as a first choice, there are many people out there that they will not give the same sort of reaction that they do to Dorgu. Because Dorgu is not a youth player from the academy. He is not English, and he is from, different country, and he came from the Serie A, right? If it's somebody that comes from our academy, they probably won't do the same necessarily as fast to Dorgu as they do to the youth prospects. They will make every excuse under the sun. They will treat them too differently. Now, I don't agree with that, because that it's just wrong. It's not bad. It's not balanced. It's not fair. But what I will say is that at some point, Grace, eventually, if the youth prospect is there at some point long enough later on, eventually they will turn on them. Because I've seen them do it before. I've seen them do it with so many players, and they might not do it as quickly as they might do it to somebody that doesn't come from the academy, but after some point they will do it, and they will start to criticize them heavily, and they're gonna suffer about it. So 100%. Bloody hell, this guy! What list with you and what's with you and Amass? I think he's a good player. I think he's a good young talent. He's on the smaller side, and that maybe could prove to be a problem at some point, but I still think he's young and he could grow. And I think the reason what it is with me and Amass is I wait until they get close. I think I wait till they get close to till they get close to the opportunity that they're like kind of getting close to getting to the first team. And obviously, there's Amass and there's Fredrickson. I don't get too involved with somebody like Cheeto right now. There's a lot of people that have like this high hope for Cheeto, but I think Cheeto is like still very far away. And until the club like sort of bring him closer and there's like an indication, I'm not really going to buy into it. But once they start sniffing around, and they're getting closer, which I think Harry Amass is close, and I think maybe even the likes of Tyler Fredrickson. I like Tyler Fredrickson as well. I would like to see him given, an opportunity, along with Amass next season. Even somebody like maybe a Biancarri, I like that, he's sort of like a winger. I think he has something to add. There's a few there, but they need to get for me to really start like putting a lot of weight into them. They need. I usually wait for them to get like right around there, right around like it seems like all right, this kid's the next one that's going to be stepping up. This kid's going to be the next one that's like right there. Because it really it's all about when they reach that point and they reach that opportunity. It's all about what they end up doing for the first team in the United kit, and that's when I like to evaluate people. I did the same thing for Sonny Lemons. I knew nothing about him. People were very hyped about him. Box was one that was like very excited by him, and Box was very correct on a lot of things. But just from my point of view, like I never watched him, and I could go watch clips, but I just preferred to watch him put on a United kit and see how he plays in the first team. And it's the same thing for the youth players. Like they're down there, they're performing. That's great. But I've seen many youth prospects not come to prosper. I've seen many youth prospects not make it. So I don't really get too, what I would call is what it seems like emotionally attached to these guys. I just think that Harry is close, and I would like to see what he can do. Just like I like to see what Amorim can do, and I like to see what Ineos can do. And there's Fredrickson, and I think he's there, and even Collier. But at Collier, for me, I've seen him quite a lot. I don't know necessarily. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe he has a good loan. He comes back and, he's improved. But I think Collier, for me, is one that I already have sort of a good indication. And I just don't know if he necessarily has what it takes. And he's like 21, So he's like, I feel like at 21 years of age, it's kind of like, are you going to make the impact? Are you going to... At 21, I feel like he should be at least on the bench as a squad player. He might not be like starting. What I'm saying is like you need to be able to be in the squad. And they've sent him out on loan. So I feel like for him, 21 years of age, this loan is sort of like it's not life or death, but it's like a do or die type of thing where it's like you either do good and improve and we keep you, we put you into next season, or maybe it's because we don't have room for all these players because of, the lack of matches we got to play this season. Or maybe they end up selling him. Because it's like, well, he didn't have a good loan. And like I said, you're 21 years of age, you go sent out on loan. If you can't break into that team and you can't play good there, how are you going to play good for Manchester United? It's just not going to work, Lyle says, I got lambasted defending Dorgu online. No, I know the Dorgu hate is real. The Dorgu hate is real. And again, I think it's just like it's just a lack of patience. Like it's really just a lack of patience. Like when you break it down, the guy has been here, it's coming up on a year, but it hasn't even been a year. He's a young guy, and for all the people, I would throw it back in their face and be like, well, for every single one of those people to talk about the youth, why do you not have the patience for somebody like Dorgu, who's only 20, 21 years of age, and just came to the Premier League, and has just gotten here to Manchester United? Why do you not have that same sort of energy that you have for, Saku Kone or Chido Obi or Kobe Mainu or whatever it is? Why is it different? Why is it any different? Because they've come from because those players are in our academy and Dorgu is not. I actually find that, to be real, I find that quite disgusting. Like, I get that maybe the players from the academy are a little bit more special, but like, that doesn't mean that you treat one like garbage and the other one you protect at all costs. At the end of the day, they're all United players. They all play for our team. We should want all of them to succeed. There shouldn't be a special. You know how I view it? It's like in the films when, sort of like Harry Potter or something like that. Like they treat Harry because he was like adopted, and they treat him very terrible. They treat him very poor because like he's not, actually part of their family, blood related. It's sort of like that. It's like in the films when like they have a stepchild and they treat the stepchild like shit. And they prefer their actual child, their actual blood, over them, and they treat them differently. And the blood child could do whatever the hell they want, and they do no wrong, and the stepchild gets blamed for everything, and is treated like a piece of shit. That's how I see it. That's honestly how it feels to me when United fans act in that manner. Like, it's like, because one of these players are our youth product, we can coddle the shit out of them, make all the excuses for them, protect them at all costs. But then when it's somebody like Dorgu comes in, we can't even give him over a year, and we have to start like just demanding that he sucks and kick him out of the football club. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. So I thought I was bad with Delo. Face, you and Delo are 1,000 times worse. You are so definitely worse with Delo than I am with Harry Amass. Again, I'm just here talking about a kid. He's doing good on loan. It's part of the news. Otherwise, I haven't even talked about him since he's got on loan. So you're definitely worse with Delo. And I don't say Amass is the best defender in the world, and I don't even say that he's going to become one. I would just like to see, because I think he's the next one up, in my opinion, and in that position. So I would like to see what he has to offer. That's about it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And I will admit that on the day, when the day comes. If he doesn't have what it takes and he ain't good enough, then I will admit it. I just would like to see them get the opportunities. That's all it is. So Amass is one. Fredrickson is one. Maybe even give Collier another shot. I really like Aiden Heaven, and I think he will come in due time. And then, a couple of these other players, like I would like to see, really, Shea Lacey, Beyond Carey. I'm interested to see if he's going to make it. I'm not going to talk badly about the other ones. I'm just going to talk about, obviously the Fletcher twins is interesting because of the dynamic of Fletcher, and we'll see if they got what they got. Saku Kone, we know, is a big one. And I'm waiting for him. Jaden Kamson, or even Habib Ogyonye, something like that. But these guys are going to take time. Then there's Vitek, that everybody's been driving me, well, not driving me crazy, but they've been going crazy about Vitek. They always say how good he is. I'm interested to see him when he actually gets the time to come up and get his opportunity. I'd like to see him. Godwill Kokoni. I've heard some good things about Ngwashi, but he's very far away because I think he's only like 16 or so, and he's playing in the under 18s. and Thwaites and like Montato and stuff like that. So I'm keeping an eye out on them, but they got to get to where they got to get. So Wednesday finally finished 12th last season. Got a loanee left back, and now they're 24th. It's not his fault though. It's not his fault. And also, actually, well, you know, they might get a couple more of our players. Listen, if he's performing well, even if they're in 24th, he's still performing. You know, he's still performing well in the championship. He's still having good performances based on the team. And actually, they said that they were probably looking to send one or two more players there, which I think United should be doing, because if we can give them good opportunities for loans in the championship, and a team is actually, you know, providing a platform, regardless of, like, I guess how well they necessarily do, then yeah, I mean, you know, it's Amass fault. Tell him right now on camera. What's even more ridiculous is fans calling for JJ Gabriel to start. Thank you, because that goes point in hand with what I was just saying, and that he was one that I forgot about. And but no, you're right. Like, the way they talk, you know what? Next time I see it, I'm gonna clip all of them. I'm gonna screenshot all of them, and I will literally bring them up on the screen, because I see it all the time. Like, and sometimes it actually pisses me off to the point where, like, I want to respond to them and be like, why are you hyping up a kid that's like 15 years old? Like, you do understand that you're not going to see this pay out for another, like, 2-3 years. And you're getting all excited like he's about to come into the team and start tomorrow. Like, I find it weird. I find it weird. I find it very strange. I don't really understand it at all. You know, I don't really get it. Why they act in that way. It's very weird. Very weird. Especially when you think about it, that probably basically all of them are like way older than them, and they're like so excited about it, you know, like a teenager. It's like, relax. Let the kid grow first. Like, he's 16, man. He ain't gonna just jump into this. Like, you know, I think everybody hopes that we get some sort of like a Lamine Yamal or like a Ronaldo or a Messi. And it's just like every single youth player that we have, they just hope that they turn out to be one of them. And I just don't really get the obsession about it. I mean, if it happens, it happens. If not, like, you know, we're just gonna take the normal process for a youth player. And you know, if one day it happens, well, then it'll be a really good surprise. Like, I don't get the obsession over it. Yeah, but I seen that they were talking about JJ Gabriel. JJ Gabriel might not even sign his pro contract with us. Geez, well, that would be a loss. But we don't want that to happen. But I mean, to that point, I mean, you're even right. Like, you know, I've seen them like hype him up and say, like, actually, you know what? I could probably pull it up right now. I've seen them hype it up and talk about it like he's already become. Yeah, like look at this. United my any Manchester United fan. We witnessed Ronaldo versus Messi. Our kids are going to witness JJ Gabriel versus Max Downman. Like, first of all, I don't know who the fuck Max Downman is. He's some sort of young talent at Arsenal. I just, like, how would you know that that's gonna happen? Like, you have no clue. You have no clue. God forbid one of them gets a terrible injury and the career is hampered. Like, that. Like, what are we talking about here? You know, rising. But I mean, listen, I get it. It's good for, like, interactions and stuff. And listen, he's 15 years old and he's already bagged 7 goals, 1 assist in 6 games for the under 18s this season. But, like, some people need to relax. Like one United account, JJ Gabriel plays like Neymar. Like, dude, relax. Like, he's in the fucking under 18s, bro. Relax. Relax. He plays like Neymar. I hope he doesn't get injured like Neymar. You know, But listen, JJ Gabriel was brought into the first team training not too long ago, and he's seen as one of the best talents. So I get that, but it's a long way to go, bro. He's 15. We won't see the kid for probably another 3 years, actually, at the minimum. So like, um, I don't know if this is true, but apparently, like the Nike CEO is this real? I hope this isn't real because that's just like insane. But I'm seeing a post here that says Nike CEO JJ Gabriel's the future of football. He will become a football icon. I hope this is like, banter. There's no way the Nike CEO said this. Yeah, this is not true. It's just it's bait. It's bait. Bait. And then they wonder why players like Garnacho are the way they are. Don't you know Garnacho even got told that Chelsea he needs to cool his attitude. Yeah. And this is why we have the argument over like, giving too much too soon. And to be fair, I mean, if you look at, the youth players that did break through at Manchester United over the last couple years, I mean, look what happened to Marcus Rashford. And look how that turned out. He's not even at the football club anymore. Look at what happened to me, sort of Mason Greenwood. Look at what happened to Garnacho. And look at sort of the situation that we have with Kobe Mainu. And I think with all 5 of those players, you can make an argument that we gave a lot very quickly, very early on, and they were put into roles where they were brunting the responsibility of what is supposed to be the experienced senior players. And it was almost like we made them grow up too quick, too fast. And out of all those players, I mean, Greenwood's not at the club anymore, but, shit happens, like off the field. But you can make an argument that, maybe we gave him too much. His head got too big and he started acting, out of turn for that. The same thing with Rashford. I watched Rashford turn from like this kid that was happy to just play for Manchester United into like he became like this brand and superstar. And I think he lost a little bit of track. He got off track at some point, and I think that didn't help at all. You look at Garnacho, and he got a big head quite immediately. And I don't think we did well to sort of level him out in that. And even like, he played with Ronaldo. And I think when Ronaldo was here, I think Garnacho was actually, because he looked up to Ronaldo, I think Ronaldo was actually keeping Garnacho in a sort of level head. But when Ronaldo left, I think Garnacho felt like, I think he started going down the wrong path in that terms, and we relied on him heavily. And he started feeling like he had already made it when he had a lot more of his game to, succeed. And then the same thing with Kobe. We relied heavily on Kobe, and he was very good for us, but we gave him a lot. And now that we try to reset things, people see it as like, we're trying to destroy him, or that we don't care about him anymore, or that Ruben doesn't rate him. And I just don't think that's the proper process. So, Rolfo has scored for us. I like that we got her from Barcelona, by the way. 2 goals in 3 UWCL games this season. Yeah. Rolfo was the goal scorer. I like that girl. She's very good. I'm actually surprised that she left the Barcelona women's team and came with us. I didn't even know that happened until like the start of the season. And I was very surprised. So yeah. But all right. Listen, we're done for today. Shout out to everybody that got involved in the chat. And shout out to all the viewers. Shout out to people that hit the like button. it is important to the channel. If you're watching after, you know, get in the comments, hit the like button, smash the like button, make sure you get that done. And we'll be back live tomorrow as well. Tomorrow, I need to remind myself of the schedule here. I think I put them all at the same time for pretty much. I think one day is different, but other than that, let me see. Let me pull this up. So Thursday, again, tomorrow, wait. No, today's Wednesday, yeah? No, Tuesday. No, today's Wednesday. Jeez, I'm losing track of the days. Yeah, so tomorrow, Thursday, we'll probably do the same. I'll just shift to 15 minutes. I know I said on both posts, on the community tab on YouTube and in the Discord, I said 7:15 p.m. UK. I'm going to shift it to 2:30. I mean 7:30. 2:30 is my time. So yeah, we'll be live tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. UK. We'll see what the day brings us. And then again, keep a lookout. I'm also gonna try and set up the call-in thing right now. I'm gonna try and see if I could get it to work, and you know, we'll have that going. Or probably after the matches. You know, we'll do a call-in on the Red Devil recaps or something like that. And look out on you know, as we get towards the end of the week and the beginning of the new week, you know, Sunday and Monday, I'm probably going to release like 2 short videos on just a topic I pick, 5 to 10 minutes. They'll be pre-recorded, and we're going to hit that. So, but yeah, other than that, you know, everybody have a good night. Be good, stay safe. We'll see each other tomorrow. We'll see what the day brings us. We'll see what we'll talk about, what topics, and what sort of news. And other than that, thank you for your support. As always, greatly appreciated. And we will catch you on the next one. Everybody have a good night, and be well. Thank you.